If I offered you a qualification right now that would unlock thousands of job opportunities, and I told you that in less than 6 months you could be earning anywhere from minimum wage to over £60,000 a year, I'd have your attention, right? Got a Class B car licence and say about 4K down the back of the sofa? Then you too could be a Class 1 truck driver. But maybe you actually still quite like seeing your family, maybe even sitting and eating a meal with them. Or maybe you like meeting your mates, going out to the footy, or just normal life stuff like working on the car. The cost isn't just that of the initial training, it's time, a lot of it. Unless your circle includes junior doctors and investment banking analysts, you'll probably be working at least 50% more hours than anyone else you know. But there's the actual work, which can provide some great days. For me, Mont Blanc Tunnel, the Alps, June. But then sometimes you're just operating a 40-ton squashing machine to a deadline, whilst also supervising thousands of Red Bull fueled, overtired toddlers in those freaking speedy little boxes they drive. Once I started to plan this video, I kind of realised how conflicted I was. Should I recommend a tough Class 1 career to you, my favourite viewer? Please subscribe. Well, actually, the answer is yes, but there are considerations. So many, in fact, that I've rewritten this script 4 times just to keep it sane. And now what I've done is to flip the question on its head, because it's much easier to answer who it's probably wrong for to spend thousands on a C+E license. With me? Let's try to get a handle on who should and who probably shouldn't spend their hard-earned on getting a Class 1 license. Trust me, this is better than have me chatting total BS about the features that make up some kind of alpha HGV driver. Let's start with the very recently invented, by me, Jazz and Daz scale, comparing the personal and working lives of two drivers, Jazz and Daz, 2 years after passing their Class 1s. Why 2 years? Because that's when most of the industry decides a driver has experience. Also, 2 years is enough time to do a bit of soul searching and to start talking about changes to more suitable shifts, or maybe even start looking at different employers. So, the completely made up Jazz and Daz both live in the nice part of Milton Keynes with their young families. Both started working at WTF Logistics on a chilly autumn morning about 2 and a bit years ago. They were both self-funded, new pass Class 1 drivers at the time. Both also went temp to perm through the same agency, Driver Drain. Meet Jazz. He's done a bit of 3.5 ton home delivery, then 4 years of curtain-sided Class 2 pallets. He knew WTF frequently advertised for drivers and fancied some of those juicy higher wages. He also knew the advertised 4 AM starts with 5 12-hour shifts a week could work. He and his partner have kind of got the shared family duties all sorted out. She works part-time a few nights a week. His wage is essential, and his Class 1 move offered the nearly perfect career upgrade. But then meet Daz. He had been working in a mind-numbingly boring, office-based copy and paste role. He'd also done a bit of 3.5 ton back in the day, but getting a Class 1 was way more of a leap of faith. His wife's a professional with working days varying between office and home, or hybrid working, but his family duties are less flexible, and his income is important, but not as critical. Look, I know this is a bit on the nose and not a very subtle comparison, but answering if a C+E license is worth it is freaking complex. It comes down to who's asking, their personal situation, the sacrifices they're willing to make, and what, if any, enjoyment they get from the job. Purely from a financial perspective, pay is really sensitive to both location and employer. And to state the obvious, whether or not you feel your pay is fair or takes the piss affects job satisfaction massively. I've made a few videos on HGV pay by region this year. Search them out after this one. Some of the numbers might surprise you. So, on the Jazz and Daz scale, most of our situations would probably put us somewhere in the middle. Even those without young families can still find the long, unsociable hours a problem. That's me. There I am in the middle. But are Jazz and Daz planning on staying at WTF for at least, say, another year? Jazz isn't going anywhere. He's loving his new unit. He's an OT monster. He's going to do 60 grand this year. His compliance, attendance, and safety rating are all good. He knows how to play the game and has a decent relationship with the planning and management teams. They know they can rely on him for the occasional favour, but he's also got a spine and won't take any BS. And what about Daz? His journey was a bit more bumpy, shocker. He became an expert in gutter clutter and searching for tiny pieces of Iveco wing mirror. His wallet wasn't even big enough for the dozens of printouts he was carrying. There were some emotional conversations at home. The kids were often foisted with no warning on unsuspected relatives. Maybe Class 1 wasn't for him. But eventually his driving and navigating skills improved, and one day he realised he wasn't carrying any freaking printouts at all. Some days could almost be described as fun. Almost. So, surprisingly, he's also sticking it out for another year. Actually, when things were at their most tense, he had a bit of luck. As it happens, an older driver, let's call him Alf, who was on a much more desirable shift pattern, reduced his hours, and old Jeremy Daz got offered the shifts. Less money, but happy wife, happy life, and all of that. Now old Jeremy Donut Daz needs to get to the gym. The miles have not been so kind to his waistline. I'm not Daz. Does the average driver who's part Jazz and part Daz think C+E is worth it? Well, ask him. And you probably won't get a shrug, yeah. It'll either be a strong yes or an even stronger no. But do ask again tomorrow. The answer's always heavily influenced by today's traffic and yesterday's finish time. So where does that leave us? Well, in my experience, the majority who get a C+E HGV license are still using it after 2 years. And most that do that go on to do many, many more. But the happier ones will likely have changed employers and shift patterns along the road. Stick it in the comments if you're glad you didn't bail early on. And thanks for making it to the end. Hit like and subscribe to share the love. The algorithms picked this one for you to watch next. Why that one? Weird.